Well, another big day of by-elections yesterday, including 3 in the Western Cape. All 3 of those have new ward councillors. The Good Party seems to be imploding, and the Democratic Alliance and the Patriotic Alliance winning those 3 seats. We'll have the inside story now from the leader of the DA in the Western Cape, Tertuis Simmers. Sorry, I anglicized your first name. I used to work for Tertuis Mayberg, and he said to me, even though he was editing an English-speaking newspaper, saying his name is Tertuis, not Tertius, and of course Mayberg, not Myberg. But good to talk to you. I'm sure you're pretty happy today at the result that came in George.
Well, no, indeed, Alec. Winning 2 of the 3 wards, and even though we lost the 3rd ward, because we would have loved to win all 3, but even in that ward, growing substantially on our 2021 performance. So all around, it's an excellent performance. But it also shows that no matter the attack that we experienced since over the weekend, even up until election day morning, we persevered. But ultimately, the voters really came on board. They understood what was busy happening. And once again, they placed a full mandate in 2 of the 3 wards behind the Democratic Alliance and our capable candidates who will now officially be sworn in as councillors very soon.
We've been paying a lot of attention to by-elections in this cycle. That's post the November 2021 local elections, because we've got a big election coming next year. But there's always seems to be inside stories. Last time I was talking with the head of the leader of the IFP, Mr. Tlabisa, and he was explaining how the ANC had been handing out food parcels at one of the wards that the IFP surprisingly lost. Well, they reversed that again in this latest by-election. On your side, what's the inside story in George? If you could maybe just give us a little bit of background on how the council is made up at the moment.
Well, no, look, indeed, George was governed up until last night, 12:30, between the DA together with the Freedom Front Plus. So it was a coalition government after the 2021 elections. We did need only 2 of the 3 wards to get an outright majority again at council level, because currently, there are 53 councillors in George in totality. We now have that clear-cut majority to be a government on our own, to be quite honest. But having been on the ground, Alec, the second part of, because you referred to what the IFP said they picked up, and unfortunately, we are seeing similar tendencies. And I was there over the weekend. I was there again yesterday. That, our opposition parties in the Western Cape also, some of them really do believe that handing out food parcels, handing out alcohol, threatening certain individuals at times, is a way for them to ensure possible victories. So there are similarities to the IFP story you touched on. It's just that, I saw this. I saw two trucks moving into a specific ward with food parcels being handed out under a military tent. So, what's so brazen, it was less than 400 meters away from the voting station. So this is not second-hand information. I saw that with my own 2 eyes.
Are you going to report them? The IFP did level I think an official report with the IEC, the Independent Electoral Commission.
Well, no, indeed, our PLC rep, they have got the video clips and the photos, and they were requested to now submit, this through to the local PLC meeting after the by-elections, because we were focused on the task at hand and ultimately gathering all the other data to do now a post-submission and report to the IEC as well. So we will be following a similar suit, but it's just for us that will happen either by before the end of this week or during the course of next week. Obviously, it's also 2 criminal charges already that has been laid against the Good Party Secretary General and one of the regional coordinators, also for intimidation and victimization of voters. So I told the team, let's stay focused. Let's keep all of this information and let's submit a detailed report through to the IEC, because it's supposed to be free and fair elections, and all parties need to adhere to the code of conduct, which is why we all sign it, building up to any election or by-election.
It's quite strange if you think in this day of cell phones and instant social media that anyone would take a chance like that. But I guess Old habits die hard. You mentioned the Good Party. Again, for those who haven't been following the story, help us out here because they lost 3 wards, all 3 wards that they contested.
Yeah, we need to remember the 3 George, now former Good wards, were the only wards in the country that the Good Party had up until last night. Obviously, the 3 councillors resigned for specific reasons, citing that they could not deliver as good ward councillors at that stage, and they were more focused or guided to be disruptive in council meetings than actually be there and represent the interest of the voters who gave them a majority on the election day in 2021. So history has now been made in terms of the DA itself. Remember, Alec, in 2019, ironically, on the 17th of July, we also had by-elections for the same 3 wards. So history has just repeated itself 4 years down the line and 2 days apart. But once again, the history has now been reversed, and the voters have now made a clear-cut decision yesterday during the election, and also during the special vote day on Tuesday.
The one ward that you did not win, that you narrowly lost to the Patriotic Alliance, which is also expanding very rapidly, it won that ward with just over a quarter of the vote. So it seems to be highly contested in that particular area in George.
Yes, indeed, Broadchurch or Ward 20, which is the ward you are referring to, there's no party has ever managed to get to the 50% mark. Since 2011, it has always been sub 40% margins for any party that actually wins, or the candidate that wins there. And we saw it playing out again in that specific ward. But I do believe if you look at the socio-economic profile of that ward, and you compare it to other areas where the PA has a footprint, or but through PR councillors in our province, like your Theewaterskloof and your Beaufort West, the socio-economic profile of that ward is specifically the same, and hence the type of tactics that the PA used to actually win that ward from Good yesterday is a clear-cut indication that certain patterns in socio-economic behavior in certain areas does carry through for them at the moment.
Just to unpack that for us, please.
Well, the socio-economic profile, and I'll use Broadchurch Ward 20, where you have individuals that are highly grant dependent. They are indigent households, the core bulk of that specific ward. A small component of that ward are actually economically active in terms of, having a full-time job or some form of a job opportunity. You have 2 specific voting stations, and the voting station where the Patriotic Alliance did quite well was the one that is actually situated in the area where we have the highest number of indigent households, but also those that are heavily reliant on social grants, among others. The other video which the DA actually won, I must state, is the one where you have individuals or voters that are more economically active to a permanent job or some form of job opportunity. So you can really compare the socio-economic profiling and how people actually vote in that specific ward. Similarly, when you look at areas like Theewaterskloof and at Beaufort West. So hence, I said the same socio-economic profiling you can see is what is the market area actually now attracted to the Patriotic Alliance for various reasons, among others, type of campaigning that I've also now observed yesterday and over the weekend. And one of that is, sadly, food parcels. It is allegedly handing out alcohol on the eve of that election, but also busing in thousands of people from other areas to come in, victimize, and arrest the voters, which is some of the cases that has been brought to our attention. But like I said, it will filter through to the local PLC report, which our rep will be giving to the IEC.
I guess the problem that people outside, when one looks at this, is the Western Cape, we know your party has governed it extremely well. You have semigration, thousands, hundreds of, more than 100,000 people a year who are moving from other parts of the country to the Western Cape because it's being better governed. But we saw in Swellendam in March that in a ward there where you and the Patriotic Alliance fought each other and the ANC slipped in through the back door and actually took over that ward. Is there no way that you and the PA would, and I'm talking about the Democratic Alliance and the Patriotic Alliance, would see the potential threat that you would have when, somebody said, I think the PA people said it, when the 2 elephants are fighting, the grass gets damaged, and then the ANC came in and won that ward. What is the likelihood of any engagement between the two of you?
Well, first and foremost, we need to understand that a vote for the Patriotic Alliance is almost a direct vote for the African National Congress, because they are in coalition in Tertuis, in Eisner, in Beaufort West, in Laingsburg, because their value systems are partially, if not nearly fully, the same. They drive racially based politics on the ground. They mobilize people according to race. They use various tactics as part of that racial mobilization in their campaigning. So, on the other side of the equation, you have the Democratic Alliance, which believes in non-racialism. We believe in being open, transparent, and accountable, but also that when we take an offering to the voter, like we have done in the 3 wards in George, we do so based on principle. We do so based on how we can work together with that community, all within that community, even after the election date, so that we can uplift all of the quality of their lives. So it's not a matter of 2 elephants fighting and the third one slipping in. It's a matter of principle. It's a matter of values. But it's also to ensure that once the voters have made that choice, like the community of Ward 20 in Portugal have done, they must now live with the consequences of that choice, because people get the councillor they deserve, which the majority elect, but also in the broader aspect of governance, they get the government they deserve, like we are seeing in Tertuis, like we are seeing in Eisner, like we are seeing in Beaufort West, and like we are seeing in Laingsburg. So, that is the sad reality of the types of politics which is currently happening. But I think what is crucial for your listeners and streamers to understand, this is 2 value propositions, those that drive nationalism and racial-based politics, and then you have the antithesis, the Democratic Alliance, a party for all, seeking to coalesce and build partnerships with all who share our vision and objective, which is to see South Africa prosper, and where we govern at ward level or municipal level, see those communities prosper, but everybody within that community, not just those that wear our blue T-shirts, but all the other colored T-shirts. And you can look wherever we govern, even in outright majority, we govern for all effectively and efficiently.
So what's going to happen in George now that you don't need the Freedom Front as a coalition partner? Do they just leave the scene quietly?
Well, we need to understand that once a party governs outright, there are variable options. You can take up all the positions which was held by your coalition partners, but we also need to see the bigger picture here as the Democratic Alliance. We need to see the bigger picture in George, that, we have a massive contribution to make to our federal leaders' Moonshot Pact, bring different parties of the same value set together. So that is a discussion that we will now have, because we do now govern outright. But governing outright doesn't mean that you must govern in arrogance and through arrogance, but it's how you now have a clear mandate, but how you still seeing the bigger picture, work with your former coalition partners in the interest of all of our people. So that is a discussion that we will be having with the George caucus soon, because we now have a full mandate, an outright mandate, but one must also be well aware of the bigger picture and the longer-term picture in where South Africa is heading, and the importance of what happened last night in George, but also our massive contribution to the national political arena.
Well, your partner in the Moonshot Pact in KwaZulu-Natal is really like a bulldozer, like a steamroller there, again winning another by-election from the ANC, but the growth in its vote, in its percentage of the vote, being quite spectacular. So I guess what you've just said now is that even when you come to local level, this Moonshot Pact is something that is needed to be taken into consideration.
Yes, no, indeed. And the reason why I refer to that is because, you yourself alluded to when we started our interview, since 2021, we've had numerous by-elections, and by-elections are a barometer of the voter mood on the ground, firstly. But secondly, it also starts getting a picture of what might happen in the national and provincial elections. Now, we govern the Western Cape. We govern the bulk of the municipalities outright or through coalition with various partners. So we take all of these lessons on our journey to 2024, but also realizing that we are a party of governance, yes, in the Western Cape, but in the bigger picture of the Democratic Alliance at the national level, it is how we approach that Moonshot Pact, contributing as a party of governance, transferring our skill sets after the 2024 elections, but above all, showing in the other provinces, like in KwaZulu-Natal, where we have a formalized partnership on the ground with the IFP as part of that Moonshot Pact, that we can govern outright, but we can also govern together in the interest of the bigger picture, which is saving South Africa from a very destructive current national government.
What about the provincial contestation in the Western Cape next year in the election? You've mentioned the national election. That's where all the focus comes. But because the DA has been running the Western Cape so well, it is almost assumed that you will be returned with a majority. But the growth of the Patriotic Alliance, which clearly doesn't sit around the same fire, certainly not at the moment, with yourselves, suggests that there could be some very interesting developments in the province. How are you seeing that all play out?
Well, for the last 3 election cycles at national and provincial level after 2009, we have seen the emergence of more and more localized provincial-based parties, and some of them have a national footprint, like the Patriotic Alliance. They are tools and mechanisms which seek to actually target specific voter segments within our province. So they have a clear-cut objective. They have a nationalistic approach, whereas we are a party for all. At the moment, if you look at all of our by-elections, and I'll focus on Berridale as part of that pact, there's valuable lessons for us to learn. But as we learned our lesson, immediately after the Berridale by-elections, you have seen a machinery in the Western Cape that's stronger, a machinery that is hard at work. And I mean, building up to yesterday's by-election, you saw a massive onslaught from good, from the PA, from the ANC. Like I said, it's like the Hydra, if the iconic creature of Olds with the different types of heads. We have 3 different heads trying to attack the Democratic Alliance from all angles. But currently what we are seeing is, as much as we see the rise of the PA in certain areas, yes, like we saw yesterday again, we also see that there's a certain or majority segment of the voter market in the Western Cape which do not find clear liking to that types of politics, that are happy with a sound, stable DA, Western Cape, that are happy with our policies, that are happy with the way that we govern this province. But yes, the reality on the ground has changed, and at the Democratic Alliance, Western Cape, and I think this is where we differ but from our other provinces, as a party in governance, as a party that has oversight over governance of its own in the Western Cape. What we will be doing moving forward towards 2024 is showcasing a party of governance in a province, being full aware that there are fractures on the ground of those that seek to try and damage the firm foundation that has been laid over the last 15 years next year, prior to the election. But above all, that as we see those trying to racialize politics for their own objectives, like the PA is actively doing, and they've been quite vocal about that. So this isn't me making assumptions of what they are busy with. We have seen the antithesis of what the DA is busy with. We have seen the growth potential of the DA in the Western Cape, even in ANC votes, even though we did not win. We saw 300, 400% growth last year in not 1 but 2 by-elections. So it shows you the more mature the voter becomes in certain areas, the more they look at what is best for the future, not what is best for the now, and what is just the best for our specific racial group. And I think that is the balance that we look at the Western Cape, and where we differ from other provinces, given that we tend to have the most parties on the ballot at provincial level in any national provincial elections. And I think we're going to see the same suit next year, plus add the 3rd ballot of an independent. It will be a very interesting election in the Western Cape, but our elections are showing us that we are ready, and that we will be a party of governance, and outright governance as well, post the election day next year.
Tertuis, just to close off with that, the ballot on independence?
Well, so far the IEC, and it's the feedback that we've been getting from our national reps that engage the IEC, we are normally used to 2 ballot papers, the national election ballot paper, the provincial ballot paper, but as you are aware, there will now need to be the independence, which is the 3rd component. How that will work, well, the IEC must inform all of us, given there are various murmurs on the ground of the specific threshold that needs to be met and so forth, which is a discussion all its own for another day. But as it currently stands, there will be 3 ballot papers currently as we speak. And how that will work, that will be fully, I think, technically explained by the IEC at an appropriate time once all the I's have been dotted and all the T's have been crossed.
So it isn't a vote for Western Cape independence from South Africa. It's a vote for the independent candidates. I was just thinking I missed something big there.
No. I'm happy that I provided you the clarity, because by showing that governance can work if a party functions in the interest of its citizens and its electorate, we are giving hope to the rest of South Africa. We are proud to be part of South Africa, but we are also, as the Democratic Alliance and the Democratic Alliance Western Cape, on a mission to save South Africa, which we are part of, which we will remain part of. But we are also seeing the dangers of having too much powers vested in one massive party governing, which is why we are advocates for devolution of more powers to provinces, which is why we have the provincial powers bill, which is now about to go its natural course in legislative course. Why? Because we govern in the interest of the people of the Western Cape, but we are also showcasing to the rest of our brothers and sisters in the other 8 provinces. South Africa can work. We can work together. It's a party that governs in the interest of the electorate and the broader community.
Tertuis Simmers is the provincial leader of the Democratic Alliance in the Western Cape, and I'm Alec Hogg from BizNews.com.